long-time fan of Spider-Man, I was really excited to see Far From Home, but at the same time, I was really nervous as well because I was worried that it might not be the Spider-Man movie I've been waiting for because, well, half the reviews say that Far From Home is worse than Homecoming, while the other half says it's better, and some even went as far as to say that it's better or as good as the Spider-Man 2 movie which was made by Sam Raimi. Now, if you haven't watched the Sam Raimi movies, the one thing you need to know about Spider-Man 2 is that the fans of both the MCU and the Amazing Spider-Man movies and the fans of the original agree that Spider-Man 2 is one of the best, if not the best, Spider-Man live-action movie to exist. I said live-action there because Into the Spiderverse is a huge contender for the best Spider-Man movie ever made. So I don't know if I want to compare the live-action ones to that, but let's just talk about the live-action ones right now. So the thing with Spider-Man 2 is its themes of maturity. It did not try to force jokes in itself, and it did not waste time with scenes that we didn't really need. It just gave you a grounded, emotional, and heartfelt version of all the characters that were in it, which is Doc Ock. Doc Ock was actually humanized because usually he was just like a bad guy. And we had Harry Osborn's transformation as Peter's enemy, and we had themes such as how depression can affect your function and so on. And it also had one of the most fun to watch action scenes, and as well as the famous train scene which you may have seen, which really shows what Spider-Man is all about. So when you have such a high standard for the live action movies, especially when it came from such an older movie which is like it's kind of like Citizen Kane. Even if you watch it today and you don't really enjoy it as much, you can't deny what it did for the cinema as a whole. And what Spider-Man 2 did, even if today you watch it and you're like, you know what, it doesn't really hold up that well, it cannot be denied that it definitely set the bar really high for any Spider-Man movie to come after it, as well as superhero movies in general. So now that I've seen Far From Home, does it hold up to Spider-Man 2? Is it a good Spider-Man movie? Is it better than Homecoming? Well, you're about to find out. Now, I went in Far From Home with empty expectations because I didn't really want to be disappointed. I loved Homecoming as a movie and also the Spider-Man movie. It's one of my favorite Spider-Man movies to exist, but at the same time it was kind of missing that maturity that I really wanted from Spider-Man, because while Spider-Man is a really funny and witty and smart ass, there is also the aspect of heart to him which makes him stand out to other heroes in the genre. So I really want to see that in the MCU. And now that I've seen Far From Home, let's talk about whether it is there or not. The first 20 or 30 minutes of the movie are full of like cheesy, casual high school comedy in a way. You know, you see these characters that exist. There's a lot of jokes, some land, some don't. It's really just for the light-hearted folks, I guess. But it's not really what I want to see in a Spider-Man movie, and I think Homecoming had enough of that, and it didn't really feel forced there because it made sense. But another movie having the same stuff kinda gets old because there's so much to do with Spider-Man. But after those 30 minutes end and you're introduced to Mysterio and you're introduced to all the villains and villainous stuff in the movie and the illusions, the visuals, and you finally see a layer of maturity to Spider-Man and his vulnerability as a hero, as well as how Jake played Mysterio. It all blends in so perfectly, and I have to admit this was the most excited that I've been about a Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2, and that's saying a lot because there have been good Spider-Man movies in between, but Spider-Man Far From Home really cleared all my doubts that I had with the MCU about whether or not they can actually make a Spider-Man movie that hits at home and makes you feel like, you know what, I'm watching Spider-Man. And Spider-Man Far From Home actually did that. action sequences were so good, and it really had the heart of a Spider-Man movie. You really feel it in the characters, you feel it in the villain, you feel it in Peter, then how Peter handles those situations, the way he thinks, just perfect blend of what makes Spider-Man so fun to watch. And while even in the other half of the movie, well, more than half, but it still has those high school moments that you don't really want to see. It still, I can forgive all that for how good the main parts of the movie are. And if you had any doubts regarding the heavily altered MJ in the movie, she's actually not at all annoying. She really fits Tom Holland's Spider-Man, who is really like super awkward, and it really fits him. And yeah, I mean, I don't see the model Mary Jane fitting in with him. This MJ is a much better match for Holland. The pacing of the movie is good, besides the first 20 minutes or so that I mentioned. The action and CGI is great. The soundtrack isn't anything special, like with most MCU movies, the soundtrack is just there. It feels good with the movie, but it's nothing you would just like sit at home and listen to. And the dialogues are alright, and Spider-Man has a lot of cool suits, which is really fun to watch. And yeah, I think if you're a fan of Spider-Man and you're a fan of Mysterio, this movie is not just for the fans of the MCU, it's for the fans of Spider-Man, and I think that most people would really like it. And it even has a really crazy post-credit scene that would have most people end up screaming, even including myself. I don't want to spoil it, but you have to see that for yourself. It's awesome. And now we come down to the fact, is it better than Homecoming? Yes, it is. While in the beginning it's a bit of a slow burn, it really picks up, and it fills in everything that you could have wanted from Homecoming but didn't get. This movie does it. Is it better than Spider-Man 2? Now, I don't know what kind of a person you are, and whether you think liking Spider-Man 2 a lot makes you a Raimi shill or anything, but I really think that this movie came close to Spider-Man 2, and after Spider-Man 2, this is the movie that felt like the most Spider-Man to me. Like, I was watching it, I saw the scene, I was hooked on my seat, I was like, this is what Spider-Man is all about. But I think that Spider-Man 2 is slightly better than this movie, because there are a lot of human elements in the movie that I enjoyed, because it has themes of maturity, and the humans were flawed and vulnerable, and you see them make mistakes, you see them come to terms with things, and that stuff, which is a filler for the parts that are not fighting and everything, are done better than the high school drama stuff, which could be your thing, but to me, I personally prefer the seriousness of the Spider-Man 2 movie. So to me, Spider-Man 2 is still better by a bit, but Far From Home came so close. Like, maybe if and the MCU keeps this up, the third movie could really trump it all. I really think that. I mean, it could be the single best Spider-Man movie to exist, but for now, I think even if you think that the Spider-Man 2 movie does not hold up as well today, you have to take into account the Citizen Kane example, that what it did for its time is still something that has not been done yet. The new movie is not as groundbreaking as Spider-Man 2 was for cinema and superhero movies and Spider-Man in general. So I really hope that Marvel brings the sense of maturity and flawed human beings and everything in the third movie, and instead of cutting out of serious moments into random jokes, it just keeps the momentum going, which I really want to see. But that aside, Spider-Man Far From Home is a solid movie and hits right at home. See what I did there? I would give Far From Home an 8.5. It's a really solid venture, start to finish. If you think the high school stuff is a bit underwhelming, just wait a few minutes. It's going to be an explosion, and it's going to be so entertaining. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, this movie is going to give you so much enjoyment, especially with Mysterio being so well done. So yeah, if you're thinking about whether you should watch Far From Home or not, go ahead and watch it right now. And if you're just watching this review to see what I think about it, then I hope that our opinions didn't differ too much. But if it did differ, don't forget to leave a comment about it. And yeah, if you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends or anywhere you like. So yeah, this is it for now.